All right, guys, so you just got done listening to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So we are going to take that book and we're going to break down the story structure of the book. So make sure you should have one of these in front of you. Your name should be on the top. We're going to start by filling out the title. And remember, every title needs quotation marks. So we have Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is our title. So write along with me. And then we're going to include the author and the illustrator. So if we look back at the title, or if you can always, guys, look back in the video where you watched the story. But I have the title right here, or the book right here, so I can look and see that it was written by Judy Barrett. I love the illustrations in this story. It was one of my favorite stories growing up as a kid, and I always loved looking at the different pictures of all the food. Okay, by Julie Barrett, illustrated by Ron Barrett. I wonder if they're related. By Ron Barrett. All right, good job. Okay, so we've done the title. Now let's move on to the characters from this story. Okay, so if we remember, we're introduced to the characters pretty early on. Okay, so here on this page, here's the characters that we have. It says Mom. Here's the mom. I don't know, she doesn't play a huge part in the story, but I think we could still mention her. So we're just gonna make a list. So Mom was a character. They don't necessarily give us her name. They just call her Mom. We have Mom. We have, Grandpa plays a very important part in the story. We have Grandpa. Okay, who else do we learn about on this page? Oh, we have Henry. So it says Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. So we have Henry. And then the story is actually told from the point of view of the girl character. So they don't actually give us her name. So we're just going to say the girl. So she's who's telling us the story. So we have Mom, Grandpa, Henry, and the girl. Those are our main characters, but I would also say as he starts to tell the story, we see some other characters like on this page, but there aren't really any specific characters. So I think instead of just a few characters from the town, we could just say the people in the town. The people in the town. There's quite a few of them, but they don't really name anyone specific from the town. But they're pretty important to the story. Okay, we got our characters down. Let's move on to our setting. So, now I know we started out at the beginning at the Henry and the girl's house, but that's not really where most of the story takes place. Okay, so Grandpa starts to tell the story, and they transition to where the story is going to take place for the rest of the book. Okay, and as we see on this beautifully illustrated page, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. So that's going to be our main setting, where the story mostly takes place. Okay, so our setting is the town of Chew and Swallow. All right, we have our title, we have characters, we have a setting. Now let's break down the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Another way of saying this would be the plot of the story. Okay, so we've broken down a little bit about the beginning of the story. It starts with Grandpa flipping some pancakes, and it lands right on Henry's head. Okay, now those are some details, but those aren't really the most important details about the beginning. Okay, so let's think about the important stuff that happened at the beginning of the story. Doing pancakes. I would say really at the beginning, the most important part was this page right here. So on this page, Grandpa begins to tell them a story. Okay, so we're going to kind of sum that up. We're not going to retell the whole story, just the most important parts. So we're going to say, Grandpa told Henry and the girl a story about the town Chew and Swallow. Probably won't all fit on one line. About the town Chew and Swallow. So he started telling the story at the beginning. So that's where we kind of started out. Now, as he gets into his story, what do we start to learn about the town of Chew and Swallow? Okay, it was a very special town, as it mentions on this page here. There were no food stores. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. Okay, so when we start to see in the middle, it shows us a little bit about the different food that the townspeople get from the sky, depending on what the weather was like. Okay, so we have some peas. We had peas and orange juice and burgers. Okay, and then it says the people would watch the weather report on television, so they would hear a prediction for the next day's food. I think growing up reading this book, this was probably my favorite page. Either this one or I think this one, where the hot dogs were falling through the restaurant. Okay, so we kind of see how the people of Chew and Swallow live their lives. Okay, a little different than you and me. I don't know about you, but I didn't have any pancakes falling on my car driving to work this morning. Okay, so we start to see that this would maybe be kind of a cool thing if food was falling from the sky. Okay, nothing bad so far. Okay, so far so good. But then things start to go bad. So we start to see the downside of having food fall from the sky all the time. Okay, a giant pancake even closed the school. I would be very sad if that happened. Okay, they had a tomato tornado. And this page really shows you what the problem in the story is. Okay, so the food was causing a lot of problems for the people of Chew and Swallow in the middle of the story. Okay, so we're going to say the food started taking over the town. The food started taking over the town, making it unsafe. Okay, so that's really what was happening in the middle, as we learned a little bit more about the town, what it looked like, and it started off like things were doing okay. People liked the town, people were getting along and doing okay, and then things started going bad in the middle. Okay, so the townspeople had a problem. They didn't know what to do to get away from this food, like Mr. Noodlehead here. Okay, so they weren't sure what to do. But then the people started using the food. They started using the food to put together boats. Okay, and they took those sandwich boats to look for somewhere new to live. And that is how Grandpa finishes his story. He tells them after being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. Okay, so the story ends. They solved their problem. Grandpa finishes his story. Okay, and we find out that the people in town moved away to escape the dangerous food. And also, we can mention Grandpa finished his story. Because really, it was kind of like a book inside a book, or a story inside a story, because we started with Grandpa telling them the story, then we got to the information about the town, and then it kind of goes back to him finishing his story. Grandpa finished his story. All right, so that is the beginning and the middle and the end of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, one of my favorite books. Okay, you guys did a very good job following along and talking about story structure of this book. Thank you for listening, following along, and it is time to move on with the afternoon.